just knowing that it happened literally 200 yards from where I lived, that's why it stuck out.
It's the first time in almost 30 years that David Bollinger has visited the scene of a crime that changed his life forever.
We all rode our bicycles up here and wanted to say, hey, what's all the big fuss about? And Johnny said, hey, somebody was murdered up here today.
That somebody was 32-year-old Pamela Dreyer. On July 13th, 1988, she was working in her fish store on Wrightsville Avenue when she was robbed. Pam's brother, Mark Smith, remembers it like it was yesterday.
He apparently told her to get down on the floor. She did the position on the floor. He put the barrel of the pistol, pressed it against her scalp, and fired.
The killer took $173 out of the cash register and left Pam face down in a pool of her own blood.
Pam was she was smart. She was fun.
As friends and family grieved her death, months passed, but police made no arrests. Then, a big break in the case. Nina Rayford called the Crime Stoppers tip line, saying she'd seen Johnny Small fleeing the scene the night of the murder. She recognized him because they went to school together. She also expressed interest in reward money being offered in the case. Even though there was no physical evidence linking Small to the crime, that Crime Stoppers tip started a chain of events that would put Johnny Small behind bars for decades. Remember David Bollinger?
Especially knowing that it happened right here.
Well, in 1988, he looked like this, and his best friend was Johnny Small. Bollinger says he thinks that friendship is what prompted police to arrest him on an outstanding warrant for an unrelated crime. As soon as that interrogation began, Bollinger says all police wanted to know about was Pam Dreyer's murder and his friend Johnny's alleged involvement.
He showed me pictures of the murder, and at that point I almost got sick. It was very graphic. Kept telling him over and over I didn't do it. He said, we know Johnny did it. We just need you to tell us he did it.
Bollinger had a solid alibi that put him out of town for work at the time of the crime, but he says Detective J.J. Leitner didn't care and pushed him to confess to driving the getaway car after Johnny Small murdered Pam Dreyer.
He told me, if you don't tell me what I want to hear, you will go to jail for this. I will make sure you get the death penalty. He would be right there in the front row watching me die. I'm 19. I'm scared. I asked for my parents. I wasn't allowed to make a call. I was told I didn't need a lawyer. Everything that I needed to do, I tried to do, but was denied. After a while, I caved. I gave him the story he wanted to hear.
Even with the coerced confession, there were big problems with the case. Tipster Nina Rayford's time card showed she was working at McDonald's around the time of the murder, making it highly doubtful she witnessed anyone fleeing the crime scene. The murder weapon, a .25 caliber handgun, was never recovered. So police pounced when they learned another close friend of Small's, Ray Brigman, had a .25 caliber gun stolen from him a couple of months before the murder.
Everybody's fussing about what happened to the gun. And Johnny said he didn't know. This is crazy.
Sue Brigman says Detective Leitner convinced their family Johnny Small had stolen her son's gun and used it to kill Pam Dreyer. She says he even told them the shell casings from the crime scene were an exact match to the ones from their gun. That haunted Sue Brigman and convinced her to testify against Small at his 1989 trial.
I cried coming over here because it's hard. It's real hard to know that you put somebody behind bars that didn't deserve to be there.
It wasn't until last year that the Brigmans found out someone else had stolen their gun, and it had been recovered in Charlotte before Small ever went to trial. Turns out it did not match the weapon used in Dreyer's murder, and it appears Wilmington police knew all of this, but failed to share this critical information with prosecutors or defense attorneys.
I was shocked. I couldn't believe there was the report from Charlotte with the gun, and had been there all along. A man spent 28 years in prison for nothing, based on lies.
David Bollinger says the guilt of falsely testifying against his friend has also haunted him his whole life.
He's my best friend. It's emotional. Someone I love dearly that I put in prison on false words, on someone else's demand.
Bollinger says he tried to come clean in the 1990s, but the lawyer he contacted wouldn't take the case. It wasn't until 2012, after he met Dwayne Dale, who'd been exonerated by DNA evidence 18 years after being wrongfully convicted of rape, that Bollinger found the courage to reach out to Chris Muma at the North Carolina Center on Actual Innocence.
I think there's a lot of Davids out there who are afraid to come forward.
Chris Muma and her team have now helped 8 wrongfully convicted men get out of prison. After meeting Bollinger, doing some research, and giving him a lie detector test to verify his story, Muma took the case, and her efforts ultimately got Johnny Small out of prison last year.
Out here on this sidewalk, actually, he gave me a hug. He forgave me. So that was a big relief.
People have contacted him saying, you know, he should be put in prison and he should have to serve the same number of years as Johnny, and they just don't understand how heroic it was for him to come forward and how brave it was for him to come forward.
Despite helping his friend in the end, Bollinger says he isn't finished trying to make things right.
If this was the common practice back then, how many people are in jail for something they didn't do? How many people were forced to tell something that's not true? I want to see something done. I want to see justice. I want justice for Johnny. I want justice for Mr. Dreer. I want justice for me and everybody else that was involved. It's not fair.
Detective Leitner has retired from the Wilmington Police Department and did not respond to calls for comment on the accusations that he hid evidence and coerced confessions and false testimony. The WPD won't comment either. But the judge found police broke the law by failing to turn over evidence that was favorable to Small and said the jury may have reached a different conclusion if they had seen that evidence. The judge said something was not right with the way the teenagers in this case were interrogated and said he was very concerned with the way Wilmington police conducted themselves. Still, the district attorney has no plans to prosecute retired Detective J.J. Leitner for his role in this case, so Small's only recourse against Wilmington police is the civil lawsuit that is now pending. Back to you.